Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Recovery Support Services ECHO series. My name is Andrea, and I will be helping to facilitate this conversation. This training is brought to you by the Center for Substance Use Training and Telementoring CSTAT, a division of the Be Well Institute here at UT Health San Antonio. During this session, as always, we are going to be recording, but please remember that the information on the chat will not appear on the recordings. So please continue adding your names, email addresses, affiliations on the chat. We will need this information to confirm your attendance to this class. But if you're joining via phone, and I know a lot of you do, please send us an email at cstat@utesca.edu so we can associate the phone numbers with your names. If you need captionings for the class, as always, you know where to go and click at the bottom of your Zoom windows so you can see captionings for this class. And in today's session, we're going to start with a 25 minutes didactic presentation by Kim Govak. She's one of our hub members. And then we're going to open the floor for your questions. Then after that, in the second part of the session, we're going to have Tobias discussing a case. And this is particularly the part of the session where we would like to hear your opinions and your suggestions. So Tobias can leave the session today with some new strategies or ideas on how to manage this case. It is an interesting one, so I'm sure all of you will have something to suggest. So as always, we have to keep in mind that when discussing the case, we're not going to use any information that could help us identify the person in question. You all know that, but we need to remember it here and there. So anything related to name, places, or anything too specific that could help us identify the person. But besides that, everything is fair game, and we want to hear your perspectives and your opinions. Just please raise your hands and wait until I call your names before you unmute your microphone so we all have the same opportunity to participate in this conversation. So we're going to start with some introductions. And let's see, Richard Hamner, how are you today?
I'm great. Hi, Andrea. Thank you. Yes, Richard Hamner with Be Well Texas in San Antonio, RSS program manager and hub member. Glad to see everyone here.
Thank you. Kim.
Thank you, Andrea. Kim Govak, hub member. I live in New Jersey. I am currently a CPRS instructor for Rowan College of South Jersey. And it's an honor to be here with you.
Thank you, Kim. Same here. Susie Walker, welcome to the session.
Thanks, Andrea. Hello, everyone. I'm Susie Walker. I'm a hub member, and I'm up here in sunny Vermont today. I am the director of the Recovery Partners of Vermont, a membership organization of recovery centers and recovery residences in Vermont. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. And our presenter, our case presenter of the day, Tobias, would you briefly introduce yourself to the team, please?
Hi, thank you. My name is Tobias Ortega. I'm a justice-involved reentry peer specialist. I work for Recovery Alliance of El Paso, Texas, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad to have the opportunity for this case presentation. I look forward to gaining any valuable knowledge I can pick up today. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you for supporting our series. So I think we're ready to start with the didactic presentation. If Julia could please start sharing the PowerPoint didactics, and we can start with that. Yes, we see it. Perfect.
So I just start.
Yes, you may.
Okay, this is my first time presenting for the hub, so thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I also said that I'm a woman in sustained recovery management. I am a National Certified Peer Recovery Support Specialist, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to go visit the great recovery center in El Paso and the wonderful Ben Bass down there and some of the other RCOs. So I'm really excited to be here today speaking on this topic. Next slide. Thank you. The disclosure, all speakers and all members of the Planning Committee have no relevant financial relationships with a commercial interest to disclose. The views and opinions expressed by the participants and speakers attending the ECHO sessions are solely their opinions and do not reflect the official position or policy of UT Health San Antonio. Thank you. Next slide. So our learning objectives today are to analyze how peer-driven collaboration elevates lived experience as a central component of decision-making and facilitates systemic shifts towards models of shared leadership. We will examine challenges to meaningful peer involvement, including tokenism, unclear roles, and structural power imbalances, and we will identify organizational practices and frameworks supporting effective peer collaboration across education, the workplace, and the community. Next slide. So for peer-driven collaboration, collaboration centers the lived experience at all levels of systems change. It uplifts authenticity, mutual respect, and shared power, and meaningfully shapes policy, designs, programs, and supports community-led solutions. So centering lived experience as a valued perspective in systems change is important. Individuals with lived experience contribute insight that complements professional and academic knowledge. Although a lot of individuals with lived experience also have their educational capacity, they also offer the real life lived experience opportunities to share what's going on in the real world. It also emphasizes authenticity, mutual respect, working together, and shared power. Collaboration between peers and non-peers is based on, or supposed to be based on, equitable relationships and a commitment to inclusive practices. Peers can contribute to shaping policy, designing programs, and advancing community-based responses, and their involvement is structured and purposeful across all system levels. Next slide, please. So here are some key roles that peers can play across systems. There's shared leadership by leading or co-leading initiatives. They can help shape programs and policy with their lived experience. They can be integrated into training and service teams to strengthen person-centered systems. Peers have the ability to connect with local communities where they can build trust and increase accessibility of services. They espouse collaboration across education, behavioral health, and social services. For recovery culture in workplaces, they contribute to trauma-responsive, recovery-oriented workplace cultures. And for resilience and recovery capital, they have the ability to help shift power and promote justice by representing diverse voices and experiences at decision-making tables. Next slide, please. I loved this that was sent out by RSS Echo, the opportunity to put a quote in here, right? I'm a quote person by nature. And so this quote here, those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, but furthest from power and resources. The quote highlights the disconnect between lived experience and structural decision making. Peers often have a clear understanding of the challenges faced by the communities, yet they are often excluded from roles where they can influence any solutions. This quote challenges power dynamics. True peer collaboration requires more than token inclusion. It requires redistributing decision-making power. I know I'm struggling, and resource access. Validates peer wisdom as not only relevant, but essential to effective, equitable systems change. This quote reminds us that centering peer voices is not optional, right? But necessary for meaningful, sustainable change. And when lived experience lead, systems become more just, responsive, and effective. Next slide, please. So here we find challenging the fixed mindset. There are still some fixed mindsets out there, although we've been doing this work for a long time. And we foresee the fixed mindset. We want to challenge those and try to create ways to challenge them. They can create barriers to feel peer involvement. Growth mindsets invite new ideas, curiosity, and a willingness to learn from lived experience. Systems must value and integrate experiential knowledge equally with professional knowledge. And here's a quote. Here's a quote from the research: "Mindset is not a magic fix, but a foundation for reflection, adaptation, and recovery from challenge." Shifting the mindset is a part of building systems that respect, integrate, and grow from the contribution of all team members, including those with lived experience. Fixed mindsets may limit opportunities for collaboration by viewing lived experience as less valid or less adaptable than formal credentials or clinical training. Growth mindsets allow space for learning and reflection, allowing teams to remain open to perspectives that are shaped by recovery and support evolving practices that reflect community wisdom and resilience. Valuing experiential knowledge alongside professional knowledge can increase team cohesion, enhance services, and and expand what recovery support looks like in practice. When everybody's at the table working together, it expands the recovery culture and expands what recovery support service looks like in practice. This reminds us that the growth mindset is not only about potential, but also about process. Next slide, please. Collaboration is hampered by hierarchy and isolation that limit contributions across systems. And this is for breaking down silos. So we're seeing that in these three areas, how peers can help with this. In education, peers can facilitate training, inform curriculum, and support learner development. Including peers in training and curriculum development brings relevance, reduces stigma because peers, when their voices are at the table, they have ways of initiating conversations about stigma and where potential stigma pitfalls can occur in curriculum, and provides real world context that traditional instruction may miss. In the workplace, peers can shift organizational culture and inform trauma-informed practices. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. What comes first, the trauma or the substance use disorder, the substance use disorder or the trauma? Well, with peers at the table, there happens to be an opportunity for a collaborative conversation about what that looks like for them so that we can implement more evidence-based strategies based on those conversations. Their presence often invites organizations to reflect on power, inclusion, and psychological safety. So it's not only presenting uh, presenting these opportunities for looking at these areas for the participants, because we're always reflecting on power differentials between peers and this person or that person, but it's also for the peers that are at the table and the systems that they're working with, uh, and ensuring that there's psychological safety there. In communities, peers can serve, and I'm sure we've all seen this here. Everybody that's on this call has experienced this. If you're in RCOs or in treatment facilities or even in hospitals, how peers can serve as bridges, but not only bridges, as advocates and connectors for equity-driven initiatives. I know here in New Jersey, um, we have some pretty robust peers who are always bringing back conversations that are centered on equity and what that looks like across stages of recovery, not only across stages of recovery, across pathways of recovery, across opportunities for individuals to enter into recovery. So it's pretty dynamic what they have the capacity of achieving if given the chance in communities, in workplace, and even with curriculum development. Peers are not just supporters, they are connectors who often have access to spaces, relationships, and insights that some formal systems cannot reach. So we know that some of the peers that work in here in New Jersey, some of the peers that have the great honor of working in emergency systems within hospitals, they also have a connection to the resources that are outside of the hospital. So where medical doctors and other clinical uh, individuals may not have access to community resources, the boots on the ground absolutely have an idea of where the individuals will be able to go once they're released from from the emergency room. The local recovery community organization is always a great place. Sometimes there are peers going into the hospital from there. So it's a great opportunity for peers to be able to participate with understanding the connections within the community. I do see a hand. Jenna?
Sorry, it was an accident.
Oh, I was like, yes. Question. Okay. All right, no problem. But one of the great things that we've heard a lot from the peers here were the opportunities to work in the hospitals, working with the criminal legal system, working with justice impacted individuals. But the biggest thing that they enjoy is when they're just given a chance to include their voices, whether it's in curriculum, whether it's the opportunity to facilitate workshops, groups, whatever system they are participating in, the more their voices are brought to the table and the more they're able to engage, that is where we find the greatest growth opportunities for them. Um, and the greatest growth for the organizations, right? Because they're allowing the boots on the ground to also bring in those resources. Next slide, please. Let's talk about some challenges that they're facing. And this is across the board. I know that, I've worked on a national level, so I've been able to work with a couple of RCOs across the country, including in New Jersey. But these are some of the trends that we've seen, trends that we've noticed, and just conversations that we've heard, right? So some of the current challenges in peer collaboration are tokenism and limited access to decision-making processes. Um, Being in the room, I don't know if anybody's seen Hamilton, right? But being in the room where it happens, but not having real power or their input genuinely considered or acted upon, also known as meaningful participation, is tokenism, right? So if we don't know what that term is for peers, if they're invited to the table, but their voices are not heard, they're not given an opportunity to speak, or how about this? They're not given an opportunity to see whatever they shared about or talked about based on their experiences implemented within the organization. We're not using them properly. They're not being implemented properly, right? So if that is taking place, that's called tokenism. So that's definite challenge. Insufficient compensation and unclear roles. Bingo. We know that that's a problem. Um, there are often challenges such as unclear roles that can lead to mission drift for them. Inadequate compensation is something that those of us who are advocates in the field continue to do to make sure that they're given a quality wage for the wonderful work that they're doing. Um, and again, the exclusion from key decision-making processes. Resistance to shifting traditional power dynamics. I don't know if this is going on in the great state of Texas, but some systems are still struggling to relinquish that control and value peer leadership, peer involvement. The peers can get so far, but they're only going to allow them to go so far. So there still is a little bit of resistance. Um, and peer leadership development is often under-resourced. I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but I know that in our state, a lot of the peer recovery specialists and those who have been doing the work for a long time, we have seen a shift where the peers that have maybe been doing this work for 6, 7 years and above have been promoted into supervisory positions, which are great. So then for the emerging peers coming into the field, there's that lack of like the mentorship peers that are like around years 2 through 4 or 2 through 5 that usually take the new peers under their wing, right? And offer them some support. So we're seeing a little bit of a gap there for that peer leadership development that gives those new peers coming in, they got their 2 years or whatever's required in the state to be able to do this work. And then we're finding that there's no one there to mentor them. And again, that is because of the unfair compensation, right? Inequitable compensation that's causing peers around year 3, 4, 5, and 6 to leave our field and to go into other areas where they may be able to make some more money. So that's one of the things that we've seen. And these barriers reflect a deeper resistance to shifting traditional power structures. And it's important, it's not on here, but it's in the comments that the research highlights that peer involvement is often superficial or symbolic, which lacks true influence, especially in systems where power remains with traditional professionals. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that a little bit. That's some of the current challenges in peer collaboration. And if anybody's experiencing some challenges that are equivalent or even different out in Texas, it'd be great to hear about that. Next slide, please. So what will the framework for effective peer collaboration look like? Well, creating culturally responsive, psychologically spaces for all team members is key, right? And I love the term culturally responsive. I know we're all working in some areas when it comes to the word cultural and all of its implication, but cultural responsiveness is something that is used in the educational field by educators, right? So for teachers and educators who have to educate everyone who walks into their classroom, right? They do this from a cultural responsive perspective, which means that they educate themselves multiculturally so that they can handle, work with, understand the biases or whatever it is that they have for any culture that's walking in through the door. And so that is important for us to create these safe spaces, right? These spaces where people have an opportunity to be brave for all of our team members. So a framework could be offering structured mentorship and growth opportunities, making sure that there are clear peer roles and provide equitable compensation. So for those organizations that may have that and other duties as required, we've all we've all had that like on our job descriptions and other duties as required. Okay, so what does that look like? Okay, if I come in to and I'm not told that I'm supposed to be transporting people, but something shows up for me 6 months later and I find out that I'm transporting folks, has that been identified as my role? Is my role identified as what does my documentation look like? And I think as we're moving more into utilizing peers, we're getting better with that, but making sure that the role is clear and it's comparable to the compensation. And encouraging peer and non-peer staff collaboration through shared learning. So we're valuing and integrating experiential knowledge equally with professional knowledge, right? So I always like to say, I was in active substance use for 29 years. I've been in sustained recovery management for 19 years. So my knowledge of substance use disorder and the equivalent recovery support services are just as important as the stuff that I'm learning in my master's degree program, right? And so trying to, make sure that everyone that's coming to the table is valued for their experiences as well. Um, and also emphasizing that building the right conditions for peers to thrive in a collaborative team culture. That means that they have supports within the team, and they also have supervision that's grounded in non-clinical recovery support service supervision. So that creating that framework, creating that culture where they can share, where they can be empathetic, where it's not punitive, where they have an opportunity to talk about what's going well, what's not going well, all that great stuff builds the right conditions for peers to be able to thrive. Next slide, please. More framework, aligning our hiring and training and supervision with recovery values. I brought up supervision in the last one, but recognizing lived experience as a professional qualification, promoting shared accountability between the peer and the clinical staff, and developing supervision structures that are rooted in recovery values and peer role clarity. So peer roles should not be treated as add-ons to clinical models, right? That's not what it's not an add-on. It's a collaborative support. It is peer recovery support has its own recovery support continuum of care that starts from, recovery. Out here in New Jersey, we have recovery high schools, collegiate recovery, all that for I wish that was out there when I was coming up, but all those resources um, that help ground them in their recovery and their ability to help others and support others. So organizations need intentional hiring practices and supervision frameworks that reflect recovery values, like autonomy, mutuality, and empowerment. Personal recovery experience offers unique insight and skills, which we've discussed. It is not an informal asset, but a formal qualification, particularly when paired with training and certification. So there it is. You're coming in with your subject matter, you're coming in with your lived experience, right? You go into the organizations that provide this great training for an opportunity to become that's what we call them here, certified peer recovery support specialists. I know they're called different things, different titles in different states, but they are given a credential, which means so much to us, right? Because for some of us, it could be the first credential we have. It may be the only one we receive, which is great, which is awesome. And it may be the launching pad into other certifications, right? So we want to try to recognize that it's a formal qualification coming in with lived experience. Collaboration is strengthened when peer and clinical staff are equally accountable for person or client-centered outcomes, person-centered for recovery support centers, client-centered for treatment facilities that are offering the services of peers. When everyone is at the table working together and equally accountable to the outcomes, it's just better. Supervisors understanding the purpose and scope of peer roles, what they look like, what they're supposed to do, and what supervision looks like for them. And recovery-oriented supervision supports reflection, right? Reflecting, because how do we enter into a room? What are we bringing with us in the supervisory capacity, in the supervisory relationship? Professional development and accountability. While I know we all have things that we have to do, we have outcomes that we have to see. We want to make sure that our participants or clients are doing well, but we have to make sure that we're trying to avoid any clinical outreach when it comes to working, clinical overreach when it comes to working with the peers. When they start doing things that like a case manager should be doing and things like that, just being mindful of that. Um, Next slide. Julio hasn't told me how we're doing on time, but I think I'm bringing it all together. Um, so here it is, bringing it all together. Peer-driven collaboration is more than inclusion. It's shared power, purpose, and growth when we're collaborating across systems and collaborating in different organizational structures. And I even like to talk about when peers go out and they have an opportunity because peers are the ones that are going to bring the resources into recovery community organizations. They're the ones that hopefully are doing outreach into communities. I like to coin it in-reach now, right? Because outreach, you just go out, you leave a flyer, you let people know who you are. But in-reach is when you actually buy into the community, you understand the history of the community, you understand the demographics of those that are being served there, and you really reach into the community instead of just going in, dropping off a flyer and bouncing to your next thing. You're really pouring into the community. So peers have an opportunity, peers do that. That's the boots on the ground work. And then they may say, listen, I want you to meet my supervisor next. But here in New Jersey, it is the peers that are doing the boots on the ground introductory work. They're sharing their experience when needed, when warranted. And next steps are usually if they need to develop a memorandum of understanding or some sort of collaborative agreement, then the supervision comes in. Right. So we say here that lived experience is not supplemental, it transforms things. I have a voice, and my experiences, some of them which were the most harrowing things that I could have experienced, have been used to help others transform their own lives. So remembering that. And systems must move beyond hierarchy and isolation to embrace collective leadership. So peer-driven collaboration shifts the power by centering lived experience, which changes how programs are designed, how policies are shaped, and how decisions are made when given the opportunity. When peers contribute, they bring a depth of insight, empathy, and credibility that traditional roles can't replicate, right? True collaboration requires that systems move from top-down models which means breaking down hierarchy, moving past siloed approaches, and embracing collective shared leadership. So true collaboration means investing in roles, relationships, and readiness. So to go back to the quote, being in the room where it happens, right? When we are in the room helping to build the table, systems change from the inside out. So I said all that to say we cannot just invite peers to the table. We must co-create the table together. Thank you, and that is all I have.
Thank you, Kim. Um, we let you go a little bit over the time because we thought it was really valuable information. And I just want to say, me personally, that piece about lived experience as part of your professional qualifications, I love that. And I'm sure that many of you in the group connected with that part. If any of you want to say that or anything, or any questions that you have related to this presentation, you may raise your hands.
I just wanted to add a little bit. Kim, thank you so much. Great presentation. Um, I first took the role in 2009 as a recovery support specialist, but I wasn't actually trained as a recovery support person until 2012. I've seen so many changes as we've moved, and you just touched on so many, and we've come a long way, but we've got so much further to go. And I love that that lived experience is not supplemental, it's transformational. Being able to take the experience that we have and what we can do with that. And yeah, it's just that was really powerful stuff. And anyway, it's just great to see where I think the exciting part is knowing where we have a good picture of where we need to go. Now we just need to kind of follow the map and follow what we've done in the past and continue forward. And I see this as being a really, really nice career. It's not just a job or work or just the opportunity to serve. This is really becoming a real career with a lot of expertise. So thanks.
I appreciate that, Richard. Thank you.
Anyone else in the group? Something that you connected to or you thought it was, well, a lot of it was really, really good, but I'm sure that for some of you, certain parts you felt like very identified with as peers, as you all are, with your lived experiences, many of you. So, but if there are no more questions at this point, what we can do is we can retake some of this during the case presentation in the second part of the class. We're going to move to announcements very quickly, and then we'll continue with the session. So Julio, if you want to share announcements with us, thank you.
Andrea, it looks like Karma has a question.
Oh, of course. Oh, I'm so sorry, Karma. I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
No, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. I was panicking. I was like, all right, let's
Okay.
go.
All right.
Kim, thanks so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. I think you brought up some amazing points. I did have a question concerning organizations who are not quite there yet, that employ peers that may be thinking about, oh, we need to have peers at the table. We're not really sure how to incorporate their ideas or concerns to develop our organizational culture that's peer friendly. And so they're kind of struggling at what are some things that you have seen in organizations in that dynamic that maybe support those conversations of how to include peers effectively, or instances where peers have successfully been able to get those conversations started and bring awareness to that dynamic. Because it can be challenging, right? You don't want to push too much as a peer because they're, or an employee of any type, really, that's at that non-leadership position. Like, how do you balance advocating for that change in your organization and moving it forward in that dynamic?
That is an excellent question. And it's funny because RSS Echo, right? The Echo project is here to be able to, like, that's one of the things is to share resources amongst each other and to have the conversation about what's working. I can tell you this, and that's a great question, Karma. Um, in the state of New Jersey, we had one recovery center that was in a very marginalized community, which is in Patterson, which is where I grew up. And then, we opened one in South Jersey, which is like 3 hours from North Jersey. And what we found is we allowed that recovery community center to kind of take us under their wing. So we developed relationships with other recovery community centers and asked them what worked well for them and what didn't work well for them. We got ourselves a seat at the table. I can share this with you too. So this was years ago. Currently, we're blessed to have a recovery center in each community. We have 21 counties in New Jersey. We have a recovery community center in each, and I can share that. Years ago, when there was one, and then ours was created, we had one policy and procedure. We had one policy and procedure that was developed by the original recovery community center, and they shared it with us. And they allowed us to take out what worked for our community. And then as we continued to grow, we were able to add things to that. So now that there's evidence-based and there's evidence-based practices out there on what policies and procedures can look like, we have found that sharing amongst ourselves helps us with our sustainability. We're all taking a hit right now, and we're all taking a hit right now, and we're all finding our solace in the ability to get through in community. So when we're talking about sustainability, for me, it is staying in communication with the organizations that are struggling with it. Mentoring, that's another piece, is that, like Recovery El Paso's been around for a while. My old CEO Joseph went through there. And like being able to mentor, other emerging RCOs or those that are struggling. It's just like a newcomer coming into recovery, right? We mentor them, and then we provide opportunities for shared collaboration. Again, what's working well for us, what didn't work well, and then equipping the peers to have conversations with the people that can implement the change, right? How to share your recovery messaging, how to share your story. What does a 30-minute pitch, 30-second pitch look like if you have an opportunity to facilitate some change? Those are the kind of things that we found help here. Hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. That was great. I don't know if Caroline, you mentioned something in the chat, if you want to say something about the presentation today. Caroline Bergstrom, I'm not sure.
No, I just wanted to say thank y'all. I really appreciate it. I found it interesting about, working together and having a seat at the table and stuff. I'm a little, yeah. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I
Can I
think
just share one last thing, Andrea?
no, what I was gonna say
Okay,
is
good.
maybe now we might move to announcements and then we may come back to this material if we can connect it with our case at some point, just in the interest of time. So Julio, if you don't mind, would like to see the announcements. Thank you. Please remember to claim your CEU credits. It's very easy. All you have to do is answer the post-session survey and make sure that you answer yes to the question, are you applying for CEU credit for today's session? After that, please give it some time, and after 2 or 3 weeks, you should be receiving your certificates. Next. The Center for Substance Use Training and Telementoring, CSTAT, offers technical assistance for different and varied or wide range of needs related to substance use disorders. It's very easy to do it. All you have to do is go to our website and complete the form there. You have the website there, and we're also dropping it in the chat. It's cstat.utasca.edu/contact us. Very easy to complete form. Someone will get back to you in approximately 3 days. Please remember this is a free service for all of you in the community, and we would like to see you using it more often. Thanks. Next. And this is the part where I will hand it to our friend Andy. She's from Bewell, Texas, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about the naloxone program. Andy, whenever you're ready.
Hi there, Andrea. Thanks for having me on. Like she said, I am from Be Well. I'm part of the naloxone program. We just kind of wanted to run some numbers by you all for here in Texas. So we are still, of course, letting individuals and organizations order up to 48 units. And if you have a larger request, just contact us directly. We also offer trainings both online and in person at one of our 10 regional hubs. And so you're able to get trainings there, and they also provide certificates if you need those. And then we also wanted to share some program highlights. So we've had over 90,000 units distributed through our open program. And that funding is still going strong for the next 5 years, which is super exciting. And then we've had over 140,000 units distributed via our legislative program, which we're hoping to get more of these next 2 years in the FY 2026 cycle. And then, of course, we also offer intramuscular naloxone. And so we've distributed 5,000 units of that throughout this year. On both programs. So that's really exciting as well. And we also wanted to introduce a new opportunity for members in our community if they would like to we'd like to gauge interest on if local community members here in Texas would like to have a naloxone vending machine. So if you're interested, we do have a link. I think that I can drop it in the chat or somebody else will. A link to just fill out the interest form. It also like shows the different specs we need if you're able to accommodate having a vending machine at a local community center or something that you know would be able to accommodate. Just please let us know by filling out that form. And we are super excited to get these out and into the community and into places that we have hubs where we know that they're not exactly able to access all of the places here in Texas because 254 counties, man, that's a lot. And so we're super excited to be able to partner with you guys and hopefully get some vending machines in your area. Thank you. And I'll drop the link in the chat there.
Yes, we put the email in case any of you are interested. This is like such an incredible harm reduction strategy to have naloxone vending machines. They have even a little link that you will complete, and that should be it. So thank you, Andy, again. Next slide, please. And of course, remember next month on Wednesday, June the 25th, we're going to have the next Recovery Support Services Echo. And with that, I think that we can share the case presentation. And Tobias, if you can briefly walk us through the case. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So once again, my name's Tobias Ortega. The participant that I'm doing the presentation on, he's a 34-year-old white male. For cultural consideration, I put tattoo culture because this gentleman is he's heavily tattooed and he's proud of his tattoos, and he has some pretty cool ones. Now the situation, I'm just going to go ahead and read how it's written here. The person has been at both federal and state prison and spent a week at a behavioral health center. He was in jail for a month before that. His mental health is unstable and he continues to use meth to self-medicate. His main goal is to stay out of prison and use cannabis only, not meth. Okay. The obstacles that he's facing, he's a registered sex offender and he has to do monthly check-ins. And that's on a permanent basis. He tends to associate with persons with similar backgrounds, so other people that have the same, criminal backgrounds. Relationships with females tend to end badly for him when they learn about his criminal past. And then after that, sometimes people look to harm him. Also, housing is hard to find because he cannot be around children. As far as recovery capital, he's in good health. He knows where to find support when he's in a crisis, like such as a mental health crisis. He's considering moving to Denver and wants to go to a long-term drug rehab center. He owns a phone, a valid ID, and some clothes. He also has a brother in Denver that offers to support him with boundaries, mainly because he can't live with his brother because small children are in the house. Options that we've discussed and talked about is he wants to find enough temporary work to buy a bus ticket and leave as soon as possible. Last year, our agency, we were able to get connected to a resource, and we got him a ticket to Denver, but he came back within a week. When he was up there, he was using meth, and he just couldn't really stick to any goals. But he wants to go back. So this time he wants to check into a 9-month rehab. And that's something that we've looked into. And that's part of our plan right now. Right now he's back in a behavioral health center, but he should be getting out soon. It's been kind of a cycle. So I got 3 questions listed on here. The first question: what type of therapy is most effective for someone convicted of a sexual offense? The next one: are there any specialized treatments or support groups that we can refer him to? And are there dual diagnosis programs that address both criminal behavior and substance use? And I'm open to any suggestions. I hate to say this, but sometimes it feels like we're running out of options. And I don't want to feel that way because I've committed to not giving up on this individual. So yeah, I'm happy to be able to present this case, and hopefully somebody can share something that'll be helpful to us. Thank you.
No, thank you. This is an interesting case. So I'm going to allow our learners to ask questions or give us ideas. Or hub members, of course.
Andrea, I'll go ahead and share some innovative things that I know of from my experience here in Vermont. So I don't know if this is available in Texas or even in Denver if he's able to relocate, but there's something called Circles of Support and Accountability, a COSA. And this is a volunteer-driven and community-based model for enhancing community safety through supporting high-risk offenders who are returning home to their communities after incarceration, while holding them accountable to the community expectations with the goal of having no more victims. The model has been really successful in supporting high-risk sex offenders and has reduced recidivism. And the most critical component of COSA model is that it centers on developing relationships between volunteers and the core member, the person who's convicted of an offense, based on mutual respect and grounded in shared commitment to public safety. And I can share some resources in the chat. It's a restorative justice model, and they deal with, I was thinking how I was so struck by the various kinds of stigma this person must be living with, the being mental health and substance use, having been convicted, the nature of the charge, all of these things. And the COSA model is really it holds people accountable, but it's a very supportive environment that isn't about accusation and punishment. It's about how do we move beyond this? And what I can share in the chat is there's a 90-minute film that you can have access to on the Department of Health website, and there's a password you can use. And documentary filmmaker Bess O'Brien followed COSAs for some period of time and developed this film about how it's impacting people's success after being returned to the community and how they can find some stability and success. So I know that's not the answer in all areas, but it's something that's been very useful here. So I'll share the resources in the chat.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you, Susan. I'm
Susie.
definitely going to look into that, and I think that's going to be very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, yes, 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 definitely. If you can share that with us or any other resources that you guys similar to that can share with Tobias, that would be great.
Tobias, this is Richard. I just wanted to ask, kind of maybe for some clarity. So he wants to go to Denver. He went 1 week, came back. Just kind of, I know you looked into a treatment program there or something, but what's going to be different? Like, what were the barriers that before, and what kind of support does he have there? Other, I guess his brother can help him, but he can't help him because of the kids. Just maybe you could add a little bit there.
Yes, I think the main barrier last time was that he was using crystal meth real heavily, and that left him unable to focus. And that's something that we've talked about in our sessions. And so he's I guess a dedicated cannabis user, and because it's legal in Denver, we worked on his recovery plan, and something we discussed was like, since he's going to the I guess I could call it the land of pot. Maybe he could just focus on using cannabis instead of, using both, because meth seemed to be the problem. That was the main barrier and interrupter when he was in Denver last time. So, part of our plan for him is that when he goes to Denver to just maybe just stick to cannabis and not use the meth, and maybe that'll give him a better chance of success.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm thinking of is maybe connecting with the Harm Reduction Alliance or there in Colorado to see if he can't find support there
Okay.
that kind of help him with his pathway and what he's wanting to do, and then maybe help align him with some other resources that maybe that address maybe justice involvement and some of the other things that are going on there.
Yes, thank you, Richard. Another thing that when he's getting ready to go, we want to get the rehab that he wants to go to. We want to get it already lined up, so it's not like he's just going to go up there and be floating around and try, faced with having to check himself in and navigate all that. We'll have it already set up for him when he gets there.
Cool. Great, great.
I have a question, Tobias.
Yes.
What type of therapy or resources or help group is he currently enrolled in as of now?
The only thing that he really does is peer support services. He doesn't go to any kind of counseling or therapy. Um, I have took him to a couple of 12-step groups. Um, but other than that, just the behavioral health centers, whatever they offer when he's inpatient there.
Okay. Kenneth, could you please unmute yourself? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Have you possibly suggested of him writing a list of the pros and cons of cannabis use opposed to using meth? Have him see the difference in the two?
We haven't done that, but that's a great idea, Kenneth, and we'll give it a try. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jason.
Well, I was going to kind of suggest the same. Have him go to smart recovery because that's cognitive behavioral technique, and they do a cost benefit analysis with him where he kind of writes out, okay, what are the benefits of my behavior and continuing, and what are the disadvantages and the cost of it. So maybe when he can actually write it out and see his behavior on paper, that might be effective instead of 12-step, have him go to smart recovery.
Thank you, Jason. That's a great suggestion. We'll give it a try. Thank you.
Um, Kim, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I did because I also saw the question about the most effective therapy. So I always when I hear the word like therapy, I always defer to clinicians that are in the room. However, there is a resource out there that's called the Good Lives and Self-Regulation Models to Sex Offender Treatment. I don't like the language, but this is the resource. I'm gonna drop the PDF in the chat for you because there's some great information in there because apparently this type of treatment was used to be built on relapse prevention and now they've implemented some other types of strategies to use. So I'll drop that in the chat. And it says, in addition to changing risk factors and building clients' abilities to manage risk, a major focus of treatment is to assist clients in developing these skills, valuing their attitudes and resources necessary to lead a different kind of life. So that's like kind of working on that as he's getting ready to leave. And then also suggesting finding out about the recovery community organizations or centers in Denver, right, that are associated with that have justice impacted um, uh, uh, a peer specialist and doing a warm handoff with him, right? So that would be my suggestion, but I'll drop that in the chat for you, Tobias.
Thank you, Kim. That's all good stuff. Thank you.
Question, comments. This is our opportunity to ask questions or give suggestions to Tobias. I see, Tobias, that at least we were discussing in the Precession Hub, he has at least his brother, it's his support at this point, right? With some restrictions, but he supports him, right?
Yes. Yeah, he actually has a brother here in El Paso and then another one up north in Denver. Um, and they both are, they both care about him. They want to support him, but there are small children present, so he can't spend too much time at the home. He can only be there when the kids aren't present.
I see. Any other suggestions, approaches, Tobias? We have two resources there, and most likely what we'll be doing is we're going to include those in the post-session email, if possible, so you guys can have access to those resources as well. Christina, would you like to unmute yourself, please? I see you have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm at work, so I've had a lot of other stuff going on. I've caught most of it. What was his biggest need right now? It was housing.
Housing and I think what we've what we've discussed in our most recent sessions is he finally has accepted the fact that no matter where he goes, he's going to have to overcome um, his past, and that's something that I've really worked through motivational interviewing to get established within the no matter what he has where he goes or what he faces, he's going to have to overcome this. But his most basic need right now, I think, would be shelter. Yes.
Okay. I don't know about in your area, but we have a faith-based shelter here in East Texas that does take in sex offenders. I'm not sure if you've looked into the shelters, but I have found one that takes in sex offenders. So it's not a long-term solution, but it'll buy you some time to maybe find something else.
That's good, Christina. Do you want to drop that information in the chat if you can?
The actual shelter here?
Yes, if you
Okay.
may, or the website, if that's okay with you. All those things will help.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we're close to the end of the hour. Thank you for doing that, Christina. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Richard, would you like to give us a short summary of the session today, specifically some suggestions for our case presenter of the day. Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. It's going to be hard. Kim, thanks so much for that. I think some of the big takeaways that I got from Tim's didactic today was a lot of just equity, being able to and just the power differentials and the other things that we see and that we talk about. And I loved her term tokenism. I think, there was just a lot there. A lot of us have seen that as peers as we work through this, whether in our employment. Some people are put on boards just because they checks a box for a grant or one of those things, but they don't necessarily utilize that. So I think moving forward, if we can kind of work at learning how we can the elevator speech and look at how we can use our lived experience and being able to communicate that to our organizations we work with, the leadership teams and everything else, how we have value and that we really do have a voice and show, to show them where we can be effective and help those. So I just thought that was wonderful. Thanks, Kim, for bringing that up. And there's just a lot more there. There's a lot more meat. I like that we record these. You can go back and you can pick it up again at some later time. And then Tobias, the case that you have, it's interesting just looking at all the different barriers that people have. And certainly this gentleman in particular who is faced with not just the justice involvement, but in the type of offense that he had and the different barriers that puts up. And then the challenges of just what harm reduction, the negative consequences that his life has kind of brought upon him. And so I like that you've got a plan. Tobias, I certainly want to promote, I think, several different things. I thought the movie would be good. What was it? My Good Life, the model that's available, and then also the Coming Home movie that would be good probably for all of us to watch. But connecting with an RCO or an RCC in Denver with a warm handoff, great idea. Harm reduction committees. I think there's a harm reduction alliance. I'm sure you can connect with that in Colorado and Denver. And those are just just one of a bunch of other opportunities that this person will have. And don't lose touch with him. Apparently, you built a relationship with him. So even though it might be distant, we'll just kind of continue that to kind of help give him, that's his comfort zone, and let him grow from there. Well, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so I want to thank all of you for making this session so special. And please join us next month. And please do not forget to complete that post-session survey. Thank you again, and we'll see you next month. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.